I have a grandfather who was in the Philippines in World War II, and they called what he had shell shock, and then he died in '97. So he was never. It was before they even came up with post-traumatic stress disorder. So, but I always kept that in my memory because he told us a lot of stories, and I always felt like he did an honorable thing being drafted in and fighting for World War II. And so when I came to this conference, and it happened to happen simultaneously with the the Disabled Veterans of America conference, that I immediately made a connection because my grandfather's always on my mind because I'm Charles Snyder III, and it was like a family tradition. So I kept it going through our son, Charles IV, in honor of my grandfather, because to me he represents the ideal of freedom and people that didn't think twice. He could have ran. Some people ran from the drafts, even in World War II. But he decided to take that path, and he could have done anything he wanted to do. But when he came back, it was like, okay, there's a General Motors job here waiting for me. You got a house and a family now, and that's the way his life turned out. And now I feel as if I'm in a position to do something about maybe something that could help now people returning from Iraq from their tours. But when I mention that whole entire story, it's because that kind of stuff improves my quality of life. To know that I can, through 13 years of research or close to it, have been able to have the confidence and knowledge and wisdom to speak about something enough to where I can help a veteran maybe feel better about himself, to help his family or help himself, or not want to just give up on life, because I'd wanted to give up on life a lot of times when I was in the depths of my pain, chronic pain. And then with the medications, it just seemed to exacerbate them, even though back then it seemed like the more I got, the more it would help. But I know George McMahon came to Flint, and in 2007, when we passed the 5th local law in Michigan, there was 5 of them: Detroit, Ann Arbor, Ferndale, Traverse City, and Flint was the 5th. And then once we passed Flint, we were able to get the funding gathered for the statewide initiative. However, in 2007, I got George one of the 4 remaining investigational new drug program patient federal marijuana program recipients, I guess. And yeah, it was a really great thing for him to come. I mean, it was in February. It was cold. I mean, he came with his wife Margaret to Flint, and we did a press conference and got to earn media. It was really great. But that for me was a full circle experience, because when I was at the height of my depression, at about 24, from all this chronic pain hitting me, I opened up an email and discovered George. And then the eureka moment was for me that, well, if he has Nail-Patella syndrome and I do, why is he getting treated that way and I'm getting treated this way? In so many words. And it still took me quite a few years before I was able to talk to George. I'd say after that, 3-4 years later, it came to fruition, where I was able to get a hold of George, and he actually reciprocated and was able to come to Flint, and it worked out well. And that's actually the last time I seen George and talked to him, and now I hear he's having health issues, so I hope everything turns out well with him. But that's an important part of Nail-Patella syndrome. And George also, if you check his website out, he says my story, and that was up there. I read one of the first things. It said my story, and I read his story, and it sure as heck sounded close to mine, but it was his story, of course, and actually way worse than mine. George McMahon's is way worse than mine. So were a lot of my relatives. So it's like really difficult for me to sit here and complain at this point when I've discovered a medicine that works so effectively. And I feel like I got my life back as a result. And to tell you everything that I benefited from, we split my own wood, we grow our own food, take care of all the household chores and duties, look after a 4-year-old and a 7-month-old, and travel all over. So I think that pretty much says it and sums it up, that medical cannabis works for Nail-Patella syndrome, and I can definitely speak confidently in that.